enough to have some hotel properties and maybe a little something to do, but they were completely random. They did end up being, every single one of them except for Pierre, South Dakota, was the county seat, and that was just by happenstance. You're talking about rural areas without much population, and so a place with 3,000 or 4,000 people in it would be sort of the biggest community in that county, including Murdo, South Dakota, where there are only 750 people live there, and it's the county seat anyway. And they do, however, have 12 motel properties there because there's an old car museum there that people frequent. It's on Route 66, and people go there and go to this car museum. So despite the fact 750 people live in this place and there's nothing to do there except the car museum, it is the county seat of a county in Nebraska, or South Dakota, rather.
Well, you had mentioned in the book that you did travel alone. Why did you do that?
Well, that's a big part of the hook of the story, to be honest. And the story is, in fact, in part, definitely a love story. When I was going through my radiation treatment, part of my coping mechanism, as it were, although, I treated that very matter-of-factly. I actually never missed a day of work when I was going through radiation treatment. I would go to my radiation at 10 o'clock. I would be to work by 11 o'clock. And my coworkers would often encouraged me to take some time off, but I didn't feel particularly well then, and I said, why don't I wait? I'm just going to wait to take time off for when I feel better. So as I was sitting at my computer working each day, I developed this idea that when I was recovered, to a certain extent anyway, that I would take a driving trip, something I had always wanted to do, but I wanted to do it by myself. Completely by myself, and I was not going to tell anybody I was leaving either. That was a big part of my idea. And part of that is the fact that you have to trust your significant other, in this case my wife, of now 16 years, that I would trust that she would think it was a good idea. I was going to take the trip anyway, so I didn't want to have the slight chance, which I thought there was only a slight chance, that she would object in some way. So what I did was, when I was ready to take off, which was probably about 2 months after my radiation treatment concluded, because I had passed through a period where there was absolutely no taste of food. In fact, food tasted horrendous. It tasted like, my analogy, well, first of all, it tasted like you've been swimming in the ocean all day. It always tasted like salt water was in your mouth. And food tasted like you were chewing gum with a silver wrapper still on it. You had to eat, obviously, because you were still hungry, but eating was a chore, and that took about 2 months to get past, and I wasn't quite, that was the only thing that was a little disappointing about the trip, is I wasn't quite all the way back from having my taste. I was still limited in what I could eat, but anyway, that was the whole idea behind it. And when I left on that day from Firekeeper Golf Course in Mayetta, Kansas, as I walked out of the hotel, I sent an email to my wife, which is in the early portions of the book, explaining to her what I was going to do, and that I would not be in contact with her except at the end of each day. I would text her as to where I was and that I was okay. And I had no communication with anybody that I knew, basically. My only communication would be with people that I came across in places like Broken Bow, Nebraska, and Hot Springs, South Dakota, and Mount Rushmore, and Sheridan, Wyoming, and on. And those were the experiences that I had, but only 3 people in the entire world knew I was leaving, and those were my 2 co-workers who would have to replace my efforts at work, and my sister, who was charged with making a phone call to my wife the day that I left, explaining to her that I had not gone mad and that I was not mad at her either.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code ClinkScale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape. I've been Doobed, and you should be next. Yes, Doob. D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. I just had one done of me. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations at their store on 119th Street in La Paloma Plaza near the Cheesecake Factory. Doob, be next.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256.
Was this the only vacation that you've taken when you really didn't plan any stops at all?
Well, the good part of it is usually when I do a book review and I talk about the fact that I took the trip without taking my wife, most of the women in the audience gasp or groan. And then later, usually during the question and answer period, they ask me pointedly why I did that. These are people who would purchase the book afterwards and hadn't read the book yet and didn't understand that this really was it really did show the closeness that we had and the love that we had. But after, in the book signings that I've done in the last year and a half, I've been able to tell the story of the fact that 2 years later, exactly at that time in 2017, my wife and I took the exact same trip. We took the template of the trip, and this time she was the person each day who was the one who picked our destination of the day. And we ended up, in this case, going more northwest and into Wyoming, spent most of our time in Wyoming, but we basically did an identical version of that trip. No plan each day, no interstates, and just about the same amount of time as well. So that was kind of a duplication of it, and that time my wife was along for the ride.
What part of the trip would you say made up the circus that you wrote about?
Well, when I originally wrote the book, it was called, my working title was a quote-unquote Little American Odyssey. And I didn't figure that I could use an American Odyssey because that would be too grand. And so that was the working title of the book. And as we went through speaking with publishers and things like that, and in the end I would self-publish the book, we're just seeking out their advice and their, collegiate responses and things like that. And one thing that was a recurring theme that came up was that book titles should have some real bang to them, even if it has nothing directly to do with actually the subject matter. So Leaving Cancer for the Circus is based on a story of the day I arrived in Pierre, South Dakota, and I was checking into the motel, and Pierre is the state capital of South Dakota, and it is the second smallest state capital in the United States, second only to Montpelier, Vermont. There's about 15 or 16,000 people in Pierre. And so I was checking into the motel, and it was a mom-and-pop type of operation, and the mother and the son were both there, and I was checking in. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the son looked at me and asked me what I was doing on this particular journey. And, of course, there's no real good answer to that, especially a real good short answer. So I said, well, there's really no purpose to the trip. And he said, well, what do you have planned for the day? And I said, I don't know. I don't really have a plan. It's a beautiful day. I might play some golf, but I might not. And he looked at me and he said, you know, the circus is in town. And I really think that the man might have been thinking that I might want to join the circus, given what I was doing, not just go to see the circus. But I actually did neither. I didn't go to the circus. I actually went and played golf. And after that round of golf was actually the only time I did speak a few words with my wife. She had texted me. It was about 6 days into the trip that she missed hearing my voice. So I told this story on the radio, as a matter of fact, as well. The day that I was cleared of cancer, I called her and I spoke with her, and she was out with a friend. And it was almost like calling somebody for a first date. She hadn't heard my voice in a long time, and we talk all the time, so this was unique. And I couldn't really make it very long through the call because I started crying, and it was a happy crying, but still I had to end the call rather quickly, and that was the only outside communication that I had during the entire length of the trip. So that's where the title, Leaving Cancer for the Circus, comes from.
When you told me about the book originally, you had mentioned that proceeds from the sale of this book go to Coaches for Cancer. Tell me about your involvement with that.
Well, I'd done a lot of it, and it was a portion of the proceeds. I always want to make that clear. The book was
I beg your pardon.
certainly did pretty well, and I was able to donate actually into the thousands of dollars to Coaches versus Cancer because of the success of the book. I always make a joke that the book did about as well as it can for any book that doesn't get into the hands of Oprah Winfrey. So, and believe me, my wife, who owns her own PR firm, Venice Communications, did indeed try to contact the people, Oprah's people, about the book without success. But I had done several things with Coaches versus Cancer through the years, including, doing radio broadcasts the day of their main event in Kansas City. Many coaches were there, and we would do a radio broadcast from the site of that evening's event. And so I'd probably done that for 5 years. And subsequent to the publication of the book, actually, I co-hosted their national event with Jay Billis. So I had a long-standing relationship with them. It seemed like a natural charitable enterprise, and I was really glad to do it. And they were very supportive. And in fact, I have my own website now, DannyKlinkskill.com, which is basically my main enterprise at this point in time, and they're an in-kind sponsor on my website as well. So I've had a great relationship with them. They do great work, and college basketball coaches certainly are under scrutiny these days, and in many cases for good reason. But the work that they've done in Coaches versus Cancer has raised millions and millions and millions of dollars for the fight against cancer. It's a great organization, and it's closely affiliated with the American Cancer Society. So I've been proud to have portions of the proceeds go and continue to go to the American Cancer Society and Coaches versus Cancer for their great work.
Are you going to, one final question for you, are you going to be doing any book signings in the not-too-distant future?
Well, I've done a lot, and that probably, the book has now been out for 2.5 years, so that's kind of slowed down a little bit, so not necessarily in the near future do I have anything on the slate. They still pop up every now and then, and people still are interested in having me go to Southern Missouri University a couple months ago and places like that. So I'm always glad to go somewhere and get the message out, and I enjoy meeting the people and gatherings from 15 to 150. I've done them, and I appreciate them all, and the audiences have been great, and I'm always looking forward to doing that. And in fact, I do have a presenter page on my website, and people can actually sign up to have me present a book